This is an SM Media production. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2023. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure to be your host as always. I'm joined as always by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, how are we?
Hi there, yeah, all good. Was at Ayr yesterday and planning to go to Musselburgh on Sunday, so attending a few more meetings than normal. So it's quite a busy period now. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I always ask you this off for you, but I don't think I've ever asked you on here. For the week, how did you get on punting wise, up or down?
It was really pretty non-existent, to be honest. I mean, I had two bets on the whole of Saturday, and they were both 40-1 each way chances, and we didn't really run a race at all. And I did back Captain Nord in the Sky Bet chase at Doncaster, who was second. That was really it. Booster Bob and a bump on the air yesterday. I was there to see what Ollie Murphy was doing down there, and he got treble, so that was okay at the end. But yeah, I mean, Cheltenham Trials, he's shot a lot of shots, and it's sensibly kind of avoided quite a lot of the graded races.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the weekend was very interesting. It was a very busy weekend, as we'll touch on in the recap. We've got 25 races to talk about, Callum. It was certainly very busy, and I would say, the kind of jump season, it's been a bit of a lull so far. It's been difficult, obviously, weather and things like that. But I thought this weekend was non-stop.
It was very busy, difficult to kind of follow, really, some of the time, particularly with Ireland having a kind of wee backlog as well that they've kind of shoehorned in, and there been 9 races at Cheltenham and try to follow Doncaster as well. It can be quite difficult to track and then kind of find the proper bet afterwards as well in regards to Cheltenham. So it does take a while to process.
Mm-hmm. We'll go into our questions. We've got kind of one big question that sticks out. We're going to, obviously, we've got a big recap and a busy Dublin Racing Festival preview. So we'll probably get more questions in next week. But we did get a question from James Page. What is your knack for the Cheltenham Festival? We're on the spot here.
I'll go at limb here and say I've really liked Magical Joy for the Mares Novice Hurdle for a long time. I just think she's just going to be prepped for the day, one run, and I think that's Henry de Brom, his best horse. I just think he'll have him absolutely ripe for it, and she'll come quite fast and late and hopefully win. I mean, solidly tipping away at her at 10s, 11s. She hasn't moved at all. It looks like she's definitely going to go straight there. So yeah, that would be the one for me.
Yeah, I think Lossy Mouth's mine. I just don't see how she loses the Triumph Hurdle with the £7. Like I think she's becoming the big one for me. I think I've covered her in pretty much everything. I've done more multiples this week than I have in a while, and I think I've got Lossy Mouth in pretty much all of them because I just think she's the real deal. I think I was very encouraged. Rich Ritchie was on the Racing Debate. He was very bullish about it as well, which, again, do you take that seriously? I don't know, but again, it's always good to hear the owner in high regard for the horse, and it's something as well he hasn't done before. I don't think he buys winners from France. I think he wants to kind of buy seconds and thirds usually and kind of build them up, but he bought her straight away, and she's kind of done it early on for him.
Yeah, I mean, the Triumph will be a horse he'd associate with the Richies too much until Vauban last year and Lossy Mouth this year. I mean, I think it was Willie Mullins' idea that he really wanted to keep Vauban away from the juvenile division and go with him in the Supreme kind of this year kind of thing. Rich Ritchie kind of stepped in a little bit. It's been an ownership that's been kind of in a bit of a transition period from likes of losing the likes of Duvan, Min, Vettori, era, Ante kind of thing, to kind of getting the new stars back in the block and with Chiefly Park still the Donnellys kind of coming in, being kind of the GP McManus to a lesser extent. They've kind of been a bit more prominent, and I think they're kind of just finding their way and having the superstars. By having a few of them out earlier, then that's helped.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move into a very busy recap for this week. We'll start on a busy Thursday at Gowran Park, where we saw Teahupoo stake his claim for the Stairs hurdle, 5-2, roughly in places for the Stairs. Again, it was a very, very impressive performance in the Galmoy hurdle. We know he's ground dependent. 5-2 for the Stairs. After that, do you think he's the one to beat if it turns up soft?
If it turns up soft, definitely. The old course will probably help him. More galloping track. Hurdles will come as quick. He's always kind of promised to deliver, and then kind of he's taking a little bit of time from his juvenile season to produce it. It was a very slowly run race, so I don't think it's conclusive proof that he is a genuine 3 mile stayer. You know, if going up at Cheltenham Hill, for instance, would ask a bit of a different question for him. You know, travelling as well, he's not kind of excelled in that department. If you look at his champion hurdle run, he ran no race. Backers of him would say, well, that was down to the trip being insufficient over quick ground. Doubters would maybe argue that he might not kind of like the track or the undulations of it in the spring isn't really for him. He should be kicking on while he possibly can right now and in the proper bad ground. He's one of those kind of wait and sees. If it's definitely good to soft, and the word soft's in the going description, like quite a lot of these Gordon Elliott horses, and particularly his Rob Coeur section, a bit of cut in the ground seems to be important. It would certainly boost confidence in him, but he's a young gun coming up. He's not really had his kind of proper conditions until this season, and he's shown what he's all about now. Whether he still has those conditions coming to March might be a different question. If he does, he's definitely the right favourite. He will be hard to beat if it all falls right to him.
Yeah. The Thyestes Chase was won by the Gamble, carefully selected. Again, this is a horse that's kind of been off and on. It's been a very short favourite back in the day for the National Hunt Chase. I think he fell 3 out, but he was beat anyway. But he's about 10-1 now for the Ultima. Irish rating of 155. You'd imagine he's maybe got a couple pounds more in England. It was a weird race. Dunboyne obviously ran a stormer. What was the takeaways from that? And do you think carefully selected could be a Cheltenham Festival player in a handicap?
Absolutely not. Off 155 with his jumping and the bounce factor of such a layoff as well. You know, that was his day. I'd be amazed if he goes to Cheltenham. His jumping won't hold up off that weight, and he's 11 as well, isn't he? So no, 10s for an Ultima. The Irish reckon that's notoriously bad, and he'd probably back that up for me. I wouldn't touch him at all. I do think soft ground's pretty important to him as well. I think he needs it a bit, quite deep. I thought the Barry Connell horse did run quite well in fifth. A low mark of 140s isn't totally out of the equation for him. Apart from that, I didn't really see much relevance to the Cheltenham Festival. There might be a few kind of Elliott types that might be looking for like an Irish national kind of thing. I did think it was in a strictly Irish form. I didn't think it was going to be much of an impact at Cheltenham.
Nah. We'll move into Sir Gerhard, obviously out in his seasonal debut over fences. 7-2 for the Brown Advisory. I was very surprised to hear that's maybe the target for him. Out of 10, how would you mark his debut over fences?
Probably 5. That might be kind, but I've had kind of doubts about Willie Burns and some of his placement in horses. I thought he was correct with this assessment that 3 miles might help him. He shaped like a steer to me. Early on, he was kind of corkscrewing a little bit and he was going a bit high. The trip looked pretty sharp early doors for him. I think he was just kind of going maybe a little bit quicker than ideal. Now, whether that's down to rust and such a prolonged reappearance period and getting over punches down a little bit, or it was a trip. To me, 2 miles is absolute bare minimum stuff at best. The Largy debut, I know he's not kind of quite the same horse that he was even on his kind of hurdling debut, for instance, but he was jumping sound enough, quick enough early on. Just thought it was just a bit uncomfortable for Sir Gerhard on reappearance, kind of trying to keep up at that speed. He was on in the Ballinmore on horrible ground. 2 mile 5 furlongs. I think 3 miles is probably a sensible option. The problem though is his jumping technique is pretty stiff, and he was meeting quite a few in the wrong stride quite often, and it's going to be routed along even later on. He didn't look to me as a horse that's got so much scope, and the real whacker and horses like that, they might have their limitations, but they will put jumping under a lot more pressure than that, and he will not get away with mistakes in a Grade 1 company. Yeah, he's got a doubted class. He could improve, and his festival record is exemplary, 2 from 2. But
do you need to see him again though before you back him?
Well, probably, but there's no time. Time's run out in that regard, and that's another big issue, that he's been behind the 8 ball all season, and it's not as if he can go to Punchestown with him, because he doesn't like that track particularly. So they will be rushing for him to get right at Cheltenham, but I just think the lack of match practice might do him in a little bit. I wouldn't really like him going back to hurdles and just running the stairs hurdle this season.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. We'll move into Friday and Huntingdon couple to mention. Jeremy's Flame for Gavin Cromwell beats Imbella by 6 lengths, now 8-1 for the Mare's Chase. She'll have to improve to kind of get near the top 2 in the market, but it was a decent performance.
This rather exposes the lack of British chance in this race, really. I thought as Imbella looked an improved figure coming into this, and then it's kind of been brushed aside by probably the 4th best Irish horse in this race. It just confirmed that the market's pretty accurate here. The Mare's Chase will be won by Impervious, Allegory de Vassy, or Scarlet and Dove. It's pretty hard to look beyond those top 3 at the moment. Jeremy's Flame getting a bit better, but even the trainer admitted afterwards that she's got a bit to go to actually challenge the top 3 in that Mare's Chase market. And the fact Jeremy's Flame looks comfortably the 4th best, assuming LMA is out, then that market looks pretty set in stone at the moment. Yeah,
a horse that's kind of come back over hurdles is Itchy Feet, 14-1 now for the Pertemps final. Again, this horse has been hard to follow in terms of fences. He hasn't taken to them well at all. He nearly went off favourite for the Marsh a couple of years ago, and I actually thought he had a good chance in it. But could hurdles bring out the best in him again? 14-1 for the Pertemps off 142 now. It's a tough one, but potentially.
Not for me. He just doesn't string 2 runs together, does he? And he'll be going to the Pertemps after that. And he might struggle. All of his are in really form now. He's got a tune out of Thomas Darby Air yesterday pretty emphatically. He jumped like a buck over fences. So the Yard are just having a little bit of a good spell at the moment. Itchy Feet, no doubt he's been talented, and his jumping fences going to let him down quite often. So it's a mileage in 142 slightly, but he's just not one to kind of hang your hat on for a big handicap. You can see him making some sort of daft mistake and dropping out of it, to be honest.
Yeah. Saturday at Cheltenham, busy day. We'll start with the juvenile hurdle, which was run by Comfort Zone. A very good race, this, I thought. 8-1 for the Triumph. My takeaway from this race is I think all the ones that ran in this race are honest enough. The one that beat Jet Howard's a bit of a maniac. Is it Jupiter Jagit? He's a fruitcake. But the ones at the top of the ones at the front of the race, I thought were pretty good. Comfort Zone, I think though, they still need to improve a bit to get near Lost Mouth and Blood Destiny and the likes.
Yeah, well, it'll need to be very strongly run for Comfort Zone. His stamina is his strong suit. He's a very solid, hardy horse. So he's an each-week player. So is Scriptwriter, who went to the front too soon, really. Paddy Brennan would probably want that lead back and arguably won in a different day. I think they just lack that kind of bona fide top class that Lossiemouth, undoubtedly has at the moment. It'll need to be kind of a bit of a messy race to kind of, and but still strongly run as well, because Lossiemouth get the ton of foot to get out of any trouble, really. You'd have to think so. Yeah, they're honourable types, but they're kind of playing places, I think, in that race anyway.
Yeah. A perfect definition of a graded horse in the handicap was Stage Star. Won this really well, actually. I thought jumped probably the best he's ever jumped, to be honest. 10-1 in places for the turners. I think a couple in behind, though, could be players for maybe a play. The likes of the second and the third, I think, could be good types. But Stage Star was, jumping-wise, it was very, very good.
Yeah, he's just gone out in front, bowled along, made all. This horse just has problems with wind, and in a tunnels, I just don't think he'll be able to kind of dominate that and kick on. Really, I think he's kind of more of a kind of like slowly run, kind of small, kind of
A
grade
manifesto
two.
with Aintree or something like that.
Yeah, I even think that's too tough. I think he's a genuine grade two horse. So I wouldn't propel him into grade one company yet. I mean, something like that. See something like the way kind of Pick Doherty's been campaigned.
Yeah.
I can see him being the same last year, like Peterborough Chases at Huntingdon kind of thing. Haldon Gold Cups at Exeter. I think he's that type of horse, and his wind will kind of go out sometimes. It wasn't a race that I was particularly interested in come March.
We'll move into the cross-country handicap chase. It was won by Back on the Lash. Again, obviously, the takeaways. Back on the Lash was getting a stone from Delta Work. We'll touch on Delta Work in a wee second. This was clearly the winner's day, because I think Delta Work will comfortably reverse the form at Cheltenham.
Yeah, he will. Once his quick grounds kind of going maybe slightly against Delta Work a little bit in the cross-country chase anyway. But he jumped quite soundly. He does make the odd kind of quirky mistake, which he did under Jack Kennedy and Fences for his whole career. So he'd be a bit mindful of that. And if they go a crawl and he's in a bad position, he isn't the quickest. So I wouldn't say he's 95% banker, but he's not 100, because nothing ever is really. But yeah, back in the last, always primed for that, and he's run really well. But it's quite fanciful that him and Teahupoo will still be ahead of Delta Work in March. You'd think. There is a stronger rumour that Galvin might go cross country as a prep for the national more than anything. So that would add a little span on the works. So
who does David Russell ride?
I'd imagine it would be Delta Work if Jack Kennedy doesn't come back. I would want your most experienced jockey and your best chance, which has been Delta Work all year. There's no slight in anything, but it's also because he's a bit of a quirky customer as well. He did throw in a daft error there towards the end, and you don't want to be doing that really. You want someone with the know-how that will sit quite handy. I'd imagine he'll sit handy as well, just to kind of rule out that kind of, if somebody kind of nips down the inside, come home and steals a little bit on him, just to kind of rule that out. But yeah, I mean, you could probably put anybody in and get away with it. I wouldn't be against a Sam Ewing or a Rob James being on. You just want maybe someone with a bit of experience in that regard to just kind of just make sure, if anything else.
We'll move into the rescheduled Clarence House chase. My head's back old watch. I've watched this 3 times and I still don't know how this goes. The race was obviously Editor to G, obviously won it well. Kind of made all, really, just kind of did what he did. What do you think about this race? Overall, tactically, you can say the winner was very good. Towards the festival, though, it's just opened this race this race is wide open now, I think.
Another front running success. Like quite a lot of races this season have been fairly slowly run, and it's paid to be quite handy. And yeah, I think they just gave the winner a bit too much rope. he jumped well. He's progressive. He's kicked on from Kempton as well, and his form. His form is getting better. He's also had Cheltenham form in the book before. The Moors have also done this before with Sardagrue. He's not that level yet, but he did battle back in the line to beat Edwardstone, who was way dropped out. The winner was supplemented and was definitely fully primed to justify a place in the champion chase. Whether the other two were, and I've seen that the Clarence House last week was just a 3-runner field.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of get away with being 85-90% because it's just really us against Amarillo Sky. I think they've been caught out a little bit, and I think the market's kind of readjusted that opinion by having them as joint favourites now between Energameen and Edwardstone.
Right, Energameen. Let's obviously you've tipped him up Ante post. He's now out to a backable price. Was the way he was kind of run baffling to you? Because I think this horse is far better when he's allowed to just bowl out in front. You can make the argument if he took on Editor de Jeet, does it set it up for Edwardstone? And yes, it probably does, but he doesn't get beat 6.5 lengths.
Yeah, I mean, there's no complaints in the regard that he was beaten. He was definitely beaten fair and square. Where a horse of that nature, his position should almost be irrelevant. It was a different kind of tactics and placement of the horse that did baffle me. First of all, when he won the champion chase, he was kind of kept outside. Paul Townend does this quite often. Well punted, heavily fancied horses will stay out of the trouble, stay outside. He can kind of do his kind of own thing and win as he likes. They shuffled him in the inner. They put him behind Amarillo Sky. He was jumping into him all the time. He ballooned the first. The first circuit, I was quite happy till 4 out, where he absolutely jumped into the back of Amarillo Sky again, took a big false step, and nobody seems to be picking up that aspect of it. And then he was kind of caught out because that's when Edwardstone kind of tried to make his move. So then he was kind of shunting away at him, and it just kind of all went wrong. In the last, he was still kind of there pitching, but looking to lose the argument before making a big mistake. To me, it just smacked of kind of not arrogance, but just kind of absolute rushiness. This horse hasn't had a proper race since the Clarence House, and I think he just get caught out a little bit. He just get caught in heels and into position. And I don't think the Mullins camp had a big tactical discussion over this. I just think, he gave the winner too much rope, and I think he's been kind of left short. He looked slightly big to me in the paddock, but the counter argument to that is he was still backed pretty well before the off as well. So, and Alan King said Edwardstone wasn't quite fully tuned up either. They were pretty pleased. So, yeah, you would take more heart out of Edwardstone than Energameen anyway. And they're both priced the same. I'd still lean towards Energameen. I think you will kind of see a completely different horse champion chase time. The old course will help, and you've got to use his engine. You've got to be more prominent, and I think they kind of will. He's a high cruiser. You've got to let him gallop. You can't have him smuggled in behind and not seeing his fences and struggling. So you just about give him a pass for that. But again, on the other hand, you can't knock what his form. What has he beaten? Not much.
Oh yeah.
I beat Chac and Persois some of the time. It isn't that entirely convincing, but I would trust Mullins to kind of get him right for March, and the fact that Paul Tennant said I wouldn't swap him, and although Mullins, I think the white paint stuff was a little bit kind of a bit tongue in cheek in my opinion, but he wasn't concerned at all, was he? I mean, he was kind of this deadpan. It wasn't as if he was like shocked by a bad performance. It's just kind of deadpan of, this happened and that happened. I mean, they kind of knew they didn't really go to battle there. They were kind of half asleep, to be honest.
And I think as well, he's been pretty much, obviously the Clarence House, he was beaten by the better horse in the day, but he's been pretty much flawless up until Saturday. Like, he's not had a bad performance in his over fences anyway. So I think you give him a pass. I think I take more out of Edwardstone though. I just think if you gave Tom Cannon this race again, he would not hold him up so far back, be a bit more closer to the pace, and I think he wins this. I think the market is probably right just now. I think they're both kind of sharing favouritism. Have you went back in with anything? I mean, that was a question I was going to ask you.
Oh.
No?
No. I mean, that bet's also part of the Lucky 15. I've not really actually had kind of proper bet on it yet, but if I did, you'd have to wait to see what Blue Lord does.
Yeah. We'll touch
as
on
well.
that.
Does Blue Lord put himself into the creed? Because if he wins impressively, he will go down this route now.
Mm-hmm.
Even Nicky Henderson's saying it's a little bit more open than we thought now, so maybe Shishkin will come here after the Ascot chase instead. You'll need to be supplemented for that, I think, but it's an interesting kind of point. And then, how good is Ed at the gate? He's not rated higher than likes of Grenadine and can Nubi Negra come back. You couldn't really, obviously, categorically rule out those two, but I would just give Energumene the benefit of the doubt there. I did think tactically, and it kind of went wrong for him, and I do think they'll make kind of more use of him, and he's just not kind of had a proper race for a long time, and I think that just kind of caught him out a little bit.
Yeah, we'll move into the handicap chase. Il Ridotto finally had his two Cheltenham performances this season. He's been probably unlucky, but I think Saturday got it right. He beat Fugitive, obviously was well backed. Again, Il Ridotto, he's about 8-1 for the plate. Do you think he's maybe going there, or?
He will now. He looked like a bit of a doubtful stare. He was shaping as if like Grand Daniel will go back to 2 miles with him, to be honest. It's just that kind of proven reliable 2.5 mile handicap form that Cheltenham seem to always have. The new course has probably helped him a little bit, but Harry Collins was confident of bowling him out and put a bit of headgear on him, and it's helped him see out his race a little bit better. The plate's going to be a lot tougher though. He's going to go up in the weights, and another relative freebie up front on the day. I think there'll be a bit more pace pressure, and it'll be a lot more competitive. I think I think he'll find the plate a lot harder, to be honest. He might just struggle next month to confirm that form.
We'll move into the Cotswold Chase. It was a winner for Ahoy Senor. Again, this kind of weird race again. Ahoy Senor jumped right. Wasn't the most fluent at a lot of his fences, but did the job. Sound Russian was obviously second. I thought it was a really good performance. Is Ahoy Senor the most likely UK winner of the Gold Cup?
No. I wouldn't rule him out. He does get better with his racing, and full credit to Lucinda Russell, who lost her father in the week as well.
Big winner.
Of course, an emotional success. He is getting better. There is undisputed talent in the engine, but if you make those kind of mistakes in a Gold Cup, it's going to set you back fairly significantly, and it would probably be too much for him to kind of recover. But if he puts it all together, he's in with a serious shout in that regard. I think the best British hope might be Brave Man's Game now.
Right. What about the other two in behind, Noble Yates and Protectorate? I thought Protectorate was very disappointing. He was very keen to start with.
Well, again, in the similar camp to Energumene, Dan Skelton said that he left him a little bit short and thinks that he would have got away with it. Now, being lumped into 64 doesn't smack of being short fitness-wise. Don't think you go to Sir Alex and say, oh, by the way, this horse is 90%, but going anyway at 64. I don't think he'd be too impressed with that.
Hair dryers would have been thrown about.
Possibly. Yeah, but he travelled well into it. Then he did kind of blow up. So, and then before running on again, so it wasn't devoid of promise. And maybe drifting him out to 16s is an overreaction, because
I think it is.
He did well. He's already got his Grade 1 at Haydock. Would he really be fully primed for a Grade 2 here as a prep to go into Cheltenham? When if you really kind of top it up too much here, you probably lose your cup chance in the process. I think you could form an argument for him at an each way price at 14, 16s. I wouldn't write him off. Noble Yates will need it softer. He made a bit of a mistake coming down the hill, and you just think that when they turn from home, that might catch him out again, even in a Gold Cup. Then he'll run on, but they could put the cheek pieces back on that they did have on in the Grand National, and that might help him kind of travel a little bit smoother and maybe keep up, and then he'll kind of stay on at the end. But he'd even need it a bit softer, I think, to be a player, and a Hoist Senior will be up there. But I think there's plenty of kind of, and nobody kind of really stood out dramatically. Sounds Russian maybe went a bit too soon, to be honest. In the end, maybe could have held on to him a little bit longer, and may have won it. I think Hoist Senior is very, very interesting. If you knew that you could trust him to run his race, and that's the thing. It's pretty hard to kind of ascertain that. But yeah, there's a clutch of them that are still get each way chances. I don't think it's a race that we learned a great deal about, and historically it's not really a good point of the Gold Cup, and that might still be the case.
Yeah, speaking of a race we didn't learn an awful lot about was the Cleve Hurdle. It was won by the French Raider Gold Tweet. Basically a really good performance, actually. Now again, he will need supplemented if he's to go to the Stairs Hurdle. If he did, he was about 8-1. Again, the winner, let's start with the winner. Very good performance out of nowhere.
Yeah, this race is rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, the winner is not even the best horse that France have. They come over, they win. We need to be supplemented. Did they expect much? Well, the market suggests no. So
No.
It's just exposed this British staying hurdle division for how really bad it is. It's horrific. Dashiell Drasher, he's a good kind of just mid 150s horse, really. Makes all and still gets second, third on a pretty consistent basis, even how exposed he is. And this was the day that Paisley Park chucked in his kind of inexplicable shocker, which is predictably the day that he's the shortest price. And
you don't think any less. You don't think any less of his chances at Cheltenham. Now he's went out to about 14s, and I still think he's got a pretty good chance to be in the frame.
I'd want longer than 14s now in the back of that. Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if he came back to form, but you'd have to question the nature of how good this British form is now. And with the Irish having a couple of progressive types in Home by the Lee and Teahupoo as well, it would still kind of dampen my enthusiasm at him. But if they get a stronger pace and softer ground at Cheltenham and he comes back, then yeah, but I wouldn't lose heart too much. I mean, about the horses that have not bombed out in trial, like Energamine, Protectorate, Paisley Park. It's better if you're bad race now on trials day than at the festival. These horses have justified going there anyway. They are going there. I mean, this is why it's so many shocks in these festival trials day, particularly when it's like so prolonged as that. The champion doesn't have anything really to prove on trials day. The day you need your champion to turn up is in March. The contenders have to be in relatively good shape to justify their place of going there anyway. So it normally is quite a telling tale of form. Normally kind of switches around from this time of the year to March because normally they're campaigned slightly differently. So yeah, I wouldn't put the slip in the bin, but yeah, Paisley Park will have a lot to prove and he'll need to bounce back. But it's a race that you can certainly see him doing, and it's not without question.
Yeah, we'll move into the Ballymore trial, which was won by Rock My Way. Tom Scudamore, I thought, gave us a terrific ride, beat a short price favourite of the Skeltons, Pembroke. You roughly see about 16-1 for the Bartlett. Could he be a maybe an each way player?
Not for me. He'll probably go Bartlett because I think they're keen to avoid Hermes Allen anyway, and I just don't think the British form will stack up here. It's a good form boost for We've All Been Caught, who runs in the Nathaniel Lacent. It'll be interesting to see what he does because he's only British graded contender over there this weekend. So yeah, he's probably the one to take out of it rather than the Ballymore trial winner on the day.
Yeah, we'll move into the handicap hurdle, which is run by Hacker de Play. Beat by Ante. Again, I roughly see about kind of 141 the winner's up to. 10-1 for a Martin Pipe. Angus Shaleda, I think, will keep the ride, obviously, with the claim. Could be a good chance.
Yeah, a bit like Red Risk in the Lanzarote. Yeah, he'd have a chance off a big weight. He did have an obvious kind of decent mark coming into this, so in the Martin Pipes, the next sensible call. You just wondered if Ireland have something, a bit less exposed and they can bolt up. I think there's a few kind of candidates from there, so he'd be a bit mindful of that before coming in. But yeah, he's probably leading the British contingent in that regard for that race.
Yeah, we'll move into Doncaster. A few horses to mention. We'll start with a very, very good performance by Tommy's Oscar. Jumped really well to beat Boot Hill by 5.5 lengths. 7-4 he won at, 14-1 for about the Grand Annual. If he was going anywhere at Cheltenham, you'd imagine it'd be something like that. I'd be very surprised if he went to Cheltenham.
Yeah, no way he's going to Cheltenham. He's a lot better than flat track and a speed test as well. So yeah, you definitely wait for an error entry, I think, to do his business there. He was just too quick for Boot Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Really, a decent little form boost for Banbridge, to be honest, to beat him from November anyway. So yeah, like he's very talented on his day. Just thought his jumping was left to be a lot to be desired, but it was a lot better on a flatter track, and that seems to be kind of the key to Tommy's Oscar. Boot Hill, I mean, where they kind of go with him now? He's kind of blown his mark a little bit, and he's not going to really win, bona fide graded contests, is he? So you're a bit betwixt and between. He might be worth trying slightly up and trip.
Mm-hmm. Possibly. We'll move into Epatone in the Mares Hurdle. 2-9 she won at. Again, you can argue she hasn't beaten anything at all here, but it was comfortably her best performance of the season so far. Where do you think each way placing a champion hurdle or a strong contender in the Mares Hurdle?
Well, it still seems to be Mares Hurdle, seems to be the kind of plan. She wasn't kind of supplemented. She'll need to be supplemented for that, which I still think she will. But I mean, it proved how good she can really visually be when not running in behind Constitution Hill. So it was an easy opportunity for her. She did look like a male that's had plenty of pace, and is champion hurdle is shaping up to be strong. Maybe if the Irish champion hurdle somehow fell apart, Nick Anderson might think, well, let's go and solidify and maybe go for a 1-2 there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she could place in a champion hurdle again this time around, but I think the Mares Hurdles has been the plan. I wouldn't be too cynical about Nick Anderson's mistake. I genuinely think it is an honest error in that regard. So it's whether her stamina lasts out up the hill would be my worry about Epatone, to be honest. But it's wait and see. But she proved that she's still got her class, and you didn't really see much behind Constitution Hill, but she has proved that she's still operating at a high standard.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into Maximilian, who won the trial at the Albert Bartlett trial at Doncaster. Kind of 20s in places for Albert Bartlett, beat Stay Away Fry, who was quite well fancied. Again, just another horse that might not be good enough for a Bartlett that's quite stacked, actually, when you look at the market.
Yeah, and they're going to entry as well, so they're going to wait for that race, and that's what Donald McCain tends to do with his better horses anyway, so yeah, no surprise there.
Yeah, we'll got a few horses now to mention in Ireland. We'll start with Braun. Again, Cheltenham Festival chances, I would say, are very limited, but this brought about 4,000 winners for Willie Mullins.
Yeah, it shows the kind of firepower Willie Mullins has had for the whole of his career. It's an excellent achievement, regardless of how many resources you have, but it certainly wasn't as stacked as it is now for him. Yeah, a long, successful training career, and it's only going strength to strength. Out of his 4,000 winners, I'm not sure Braun would make the top 1,000, but
No.
he's definitely up there. He graded horse. He will probably improve for that outing, and I think they kind of went slowly enough for him. It turned into kind of, a bit of an inappropriate dash. Yeah, I mean, if Gardner doesn't run here and somehow Braun can go here, you wouldn't categorically rule him out as a chunk of improvement, but I think they might keep him behind for something else, maybe something a bit better.
Yeah, we'll move into the Solarina Males Hurdle, which was won by Ashrow Diamond. Again, obviously, I had Halka to Bear, who just never really get involved in kind of at the front of the race. It was extremely slow paced, and I think it's very telling that Ashrow Diamond has not changed in the market. She's still 4-1.
Peculiar race, Ashrow Diamond, comfortable enough success. I think she just had the most turn of foot in the day. But again, I found a lot of these races this season just very slowly run,
Yeah.
very protected, very kind of constricted, pretty unsatisfactory generally. Yeah, I think all of Gordon Elliott's would have preferred a truer pace. I think that's why this mare's handicap's a bit more popular, because you will kind of get a bigger field, more pace, and something that's a bit more akin to a mare's novices hurdle there anyway. I wouldn't rule anything out down the future, but if you're on something that wasn't there, you wouldn't be too bothered. Lucia is still kind of top of the market. They might get a run into her in Exeter
I think she has entered the Exeter, yeah.
before the festival, which would be a bit of a plus to kind of see her for a start. So yeah, that kind of helps our argument. Ashrow Diamond, you just have to wonder how much more there is in the tank there, but she's definitely no world beater. You wouldn't be that fearful of finding one to take her on.
Yeah, I think we'll move into Founder 50, who was a nice winner for Gordon Elliott. Beat Parman on about 9 lengths. Obviously, Frank's the high definition form quite well. Again, Founder 50, promising horse for the future. Doesn't really seem to have any entries for the festival, but just want to probably keep an eye on for maybe down the line.
Yeah, keep an eye on him down the line, because that was quite a good performance. It seemed that they were going through the bumper route with him, and then they switched later than anticipated, and then the season would be kind of too late. But yeah, maybe an Aintree or Punchestown, he could pop up there fresh and make a really kind of impact, because he does look kind of ready for graded company quite swiftly. So yeah, he's definitely one to keep on side down the future. I think Cheltenham's going to be a bit too soon a turnaround for him.
Yeah. Sunday Nace, we'll start with the Devil's Coachman beat Ramirez. The result was obviously reversed. Ramirez was the one that got to the line first. I saw a few things about this at the race. Is there much Paul Townend can do?
I think it was a manoeuvre early on, didn't he? He went right when he could just go straight on. It was a deliberate kind of riding the manoeuvre a little bit. It was a bit naughty in terms of shutting the door, I thought. So whether it deemed being chucked out because it was that far out from the line anyway, the incident is open to question. Don't particularly care much anyway, but the Devil's Coachman is probably going to be kept at home again.
Yeah.
Ramirez, he's an honourable kind of he's a decent yardstick, but in the finish,
it shows you as well if Gerhard does not go in the National Hunt Chase, it is a shockingly bad race.
Yeah, sometimes you get that. Sometimes it shapes up more of a handicap, but then if you get like if a horse sets an early graded marker, then it becomes a better race. But sometimes that horse itself scares everything off. So if that one doesn't go, then when it becomes open, it certainly brings your Churchstone Warriors and your Marlon Missions into the equation, maybe even City Chief, horses like that. But this is where the festival entry system, particularly for races like the National Hunt Chase, completely lets himself down. There's too many stupid entry requirements. There's the first entry stage is way too far out to justify if a novice could stay 3 mile sections good enough for Cheltenham. You've got to decide that 8 weeks before paying the first entry stage, and you might bump into a 160 horse, and there's no point in going. So you might wait for a handicap or try and get a handicap mark, or maybe try and see what the Brown advisories like. And the markets at anti-post markets are so well liquidated anyway that you can kind of see what's going on. We do not need connections who are spending tons in training fees, tons to keep the horse in action, to shell out more, and then in the second scratching phase, and then again to enter the horse that far out. And then by then, it might already been shown that it's nowhere near good enough, and you've done your dough again. So I think it needs a bit of an overhaul in that regard. In terms of the race itself, I wouldn't be frightened taking Ramirez on at all. Willie Mullins has regarded this horse really well at bumpers days, but its finishing effort when in a proper race is really, really, because he went out like a light in the Bartlett.
I would have carefully selected Vibes if this horse was favourite for a National Hunt Chase.
I think he's better than that because he can jump. But I mean, it's his wind and his finishing effort that worries me. And if something challenges him up the hill, I think I think he might get out battled. So I would be. His jumping, he might be too good anyway. You know, he does have class. I don't dispute that, but sometimes he finds next to nothing off the bridle. Did it in he did it in when Upton Grade in the bumper. Did it Upton Grade in the Novice Hurling days. You know, he might do the same Upton Grade, you know, genuinely Upton Grade over fences, but he has definitely a chase and he's improved for a fence. It's just whether that kind of windiness is kind of out of the way. He did battle to win, but it wasn't without his quirks either. And I just wouldn't fully trust him yet, even though he would be favourite, rightfully so, if Calum doesn't go.
Yeah, let's move into a good display for you. Echoes and Rain won the 2 mile race, Limestone Lad Hurdle. Very impressive performance. 6-1 now for the Mares Hurdle. Seems to be where she's going. You must be on a week where Ante portfolios have certainly taken a bit of a hit. This was a good one.
Yeah, it was a nice confidence booster, wasn't it? It was a good bit of placing instead of running in that Irish champion hurdle to no avail. Let's just kind of confirm the impression that she is improving and she can still win and put it all together. This turned into a bit of a penalty kick. Should have been short in 5-6. I mean, people watch racing. I mean, how Bob Orns are still going off sub 3-1 for anything is, you know, it's just beyond me. That's the better angle anyway.
Yeah, it's saddening to see Bob Ollinger. There's not much. I think it just retire him just because there's nothing else you can do with him. To be honest, he's done.
Well, the trip was patently too short for him anyway, so he did try and run on a little bit to the end. So you'd have one more go at 2.5 miles, and then if it's still kind of the same flat, there's an issue that they can't get to the bottom of, and it's still there. You have one go at his proper trip, and if he's still running like that, then you'd probably have to draw stumps. As for Echoes and Rain, you know, the winners definitely get speed. You know, the argument always against her is stamina, and she won't stay 2.5 miles up the hill. I think her stamina's been drawn out. You know, you don't kind of finish second in Irish Cesaro. It's I absolutely throwing in the Aidan O'Brien horse and win at Galway 2 miles in the flat if you can't stay 2.5 over hurdles. So she was badly hampered in the Mares Hurdle last year as well. When Tell Me Something Girl was brought down, kind of blunted her finishing effort a little bit. She stayed on okay in 5th. You know, she wasn't weakening at the line. She wasn't quickening to a great extent either. But you know, she certainly wasn't weakening. So I think she's a better horse. I think she's always been pretty underestimated. She's short in price, but she's still exactly where she is in the market because it's a pretty competitive race.
It's a really good race, yeah. It's one of the races of the week, actually.
It's 5 or 6 at the top of the market stand their ground, and Tell Me Something Girl could still come here, and Cornelius might still have a couple. You know, Queen's Brook might bounce back to form. So yeah, it's a really kind of red hot race, but Echoes and Rain certainly has a chance.
Yes, she certainly does. We'll move into nice horse won the bumper for Willie Mullins, Western Diego. 12-1 now in places for the bumper. Travelled really well. Just another Willie Mullins bumper horse. It could be one to keep on the right side of.
Yeah, now this is quite interesting because all of Willie Mullins' stylish bumper winners have won races which you wouldn't really associate going forward into a champion bumper, and the ones that he's had in kind of more traditional races that he goes for going to a champion bumper have looked pretty raw and inexperienced and have either been beaten or haven't won with much conviction. So it's how you kind of weigh up this form of, you know, is these kind of higher touted horses with his old traditional route going to improve massively, or are these horses kind of, is the visual impression actually true and they are actually pretty good? I thought that was one of the better ones. I think 12's he's definitely an each way player as it stands. It was a smooth performance, and you know, even though it was over further than 2 miles, that's definitely no bad thing in a champion bumper because it's normally quite stamina sapping anyway. So yeah, he'd definitely be of each way interest. I think Mullins is, apart from Queen's Gamble in Britain, I think he's got a fairly strong stranglehold in the champion bumper.
Yeah, certainly does. Monday in Punchestown, Diverge won. Nice. It was a really nice performance. Obviously, a son of Franco. Again, just Frank's this high definition form. He was 6th in that race. That high definition won in the maiden hurdle. I don't see this horse doing much this year, but certainly a nice display.
Yeah, he looks one towards the end of the season again and maybe next season. It was a nice performance. Yeah, high definition received a couple of boosts, even though he didn't look the most kind of natural in terms of technique or offences. But he's obviously high definition. So going to be one of plenty that we're going to learn a lot more about come this weekend.
Yeah, final horse, Princess Zoe, dead heated in a mare's novice hurdle. Again, just there was so much talk about this horse, obviously coming from a flat runs as well. She surely cannot go to Cheltenham.
No, but she's a stamina horse, isn't she? So she had to go anywhere. Then Tony Mullins did indicate beforehand the battle, but I wasn't overly impressed with this anyway. So I would have just kept her to the flat, and maybe she's a fantastic career, but I think it's coming to its twilight, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a very busy recap. We're now going to go into our equally busy Dublin Racing Festival preview. We've got an exciting weekend of racing in Ireland. We have obviously the Dublin Racing Festival preview where we're going to look at the big races. We'll look at some handicaps as well. Calum, although there's a lot of short price favourites, it's always a good weekend of racing. We always learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's turned into Willie Mullins' playground a little bit. It's kind of the weekend that he kind of, decisively takes a stranglehold on the Irish champions. Trainer and Paul Townend normally gets him right. He's already breathing down Jack Kennedy's neck in the Jump Jockeys Championship, and with him sidelined, it's going to be pretty straightforward, I think, for Paul to win that. So yeah, there's a lot of short price Willie Mullins favourites, and usually these days they tend to win.
Yeah, let's start with the first race on the Saturday, which is the Nathaniel Lacey Novices Hurdle over 2 miles 6 furlong. Again, this is a very competitive race. We're not going to see a lot of that this week. Goodland leads the market 5-2. Sandor Clegane, we've all been caught. American Mike's entered. Grange Clare West, and we have the likes of Quay de Paris as well. This is a really, really competitive race.
I like Goodland. You can see why he's vaulted right to the front of the market. His win at Leopardstown 2.5 has been franked very well. He won on top. He's definitely going to go the Ballymore, and I do think he's got plenty of class. There's a lot of talk about Marine National and Supreme. I think this fellow is as much talent as him potentially. I think he could win this. I think Sandor Clegane, he's got a bit to find, but he's definitely on a steep upward curve. I wouldn't entirely rule him out. I think it is. We've all been caught. It's obviously going to be interesting to see how he runs. So I think the market looks pretty spot on here. I mean, American Mike is a bit to prove. It looks a tough enough race to kind of come back and prove something in. Whether he's over his issue or not, you'd have to be a bit kind of doubtful in backing him. But yeah, I would stick with Goodland.
Yeah,
I think he's kind of the most forward horse.
Yeah, I kind of think Goodland's the pick here as well. Obviously desperate to see American Mike run well. If he runs credibly, I still think he's got a chance in a Ballymore. I just think we want to see that he's back to some form of his best. Goodland, I think, will be hard to beat. I think 5-2 is actually quite a good price. I think obviously with Goodland, it's clear he's going Ballymore. I think he's only entered the Ballymore. Wins this, it could be sharing favouritism with Hermes Allen, because if you look, it's not a big. Hermes Allen's kind of out on his own at the moment in terms of favouritism. Goodland puts in a strong performance here. It could be roughly at the top of the market. Yeah,
I mean, you can see if he wins this, he's going to be in with like Gaelic Warrior and Perry Passy just in behind Hermes Allen. I don't think he'll stop him for favouritism quite yet, whatever he does. But yeah, you can see him being clipped into 9-2-5, something like that after this. But wait and see, because it's a deep enough race. Even Grange Clare West could bounce back in a similar fashion to what you're hoping American Mike would do. So, and a couple of outsiders could shape well for Martin Pipes or something down the line. So I mean, it's usually quite an informative race without maybe delivering the winner of the battle or the battle down the line.
Yeah, so 2 votes for Goodland, and I hope American Mike runs well each way. We'll go for the juvenile hurdle. So Wally Mullins is 6 of the 8 declarations. Obviously, Lossy Mouth leads the market. No Blood Destiny. Calum is sitting at 92. Your pick for the Boodles to Cal is in here at 12-1, run by Mark Walsh. Lossy Mouth, again, just hoping she does what she's done so far. I think she should be able to win this, I think.
On all known form, yes. She should continue kind of her progress and win this 1-2. Seems fine to me. Not too bad. I think she's one that you'd stick into your weekend kind of multiples and hope it rolls on. Calum could get closer. She shaped quite well behind last time. Not surprising Blood Destiny's not going, because that was the one that they kind of all thought that it'd be a bit too soon. So even though Lossywith does, you still have some people saying the stamina side of what Blood Destiny could do could make a bit of a difference at Cheltenham coming up the hill. Gust of Wind's an interesting one. So
Yeah.
he did this with LAT Tomps. Threw him in there, showed a lot of promise, and then just chucked him in the Triumph, which he'd have to do because he's not going to get 3 runs to go to Boodles anyway. And if he doesn't do anything, then we can keep him for the Supreme and Novice hurling next season. I think that seems to be that project. So his strength in the market is going to be pretty interesting, and it's good to see Cal there. And just hope he shapes pretty encouragingly in 3rd or 4th.
Yep.
That's what seems to be the case here.
Yep. Let's get into the Irish Arkle. Surprisingly, all 8 that were entered have been declared. Willie Mullins has decided to go with Appreciate It, Dysart Dynamo, and El Fabiolo all in the same race. Banbridge is in there as well. This is a very, very interesting race. I was saying to you last night, I cannot wait, mate, what head or tail of what the plans are here for Appreciate It in particular. Clear now that I think they're just going to throw the darts at the Arkle.
I wouldn't be that sure. This is a fact-finding exercise. I've been pretty consistent that I said that all of them will run here, and not a lot of people believe that. But it's too muddled that he has to, because he has to develop a pecking order. He has to find out more about these. Appreciate it. One twice as easily as you like. Dysart Dynamo, he jumped well, but he's beaten nothing. El Fabiolo didn't jump well, but he beat nothing. But he's got a line with John Bon and Saint-Ouen, who's been running okay in graded company. He's won a Grade 1, but he's still the outsider of them all in terms of the Mullins camp. So they need to run them against each other to ascertain what they've got for Cheltenham and how to split them up, because they all won't run together in an Arkle, I don't think. Now, if you're talking about Sir Gerhard going up and trip to the 3-miler, then I still think that the Turners is definitely a possibility for Appreciate It, even those running here. No, if he wins this well, we could turn the foot, then that might be different. But I don't think it's a case of Willie Mullins trying to find out who's going to finish 3rd or 4th and just step them up and trip, and that'll do for the Turners. What will happen on this day, and what will be the interpretation of what happens in Cheltenham? It's a good race in its own right. It's the Irish edition of it.
We don't know who Townend has chosen as well. That's the thing. That's
going to be definitive, and whoever he picks, it will be between Appreciate It and Dysart Dynamo, and which one he picks will go off favourite probably. Yeah. I'd expect him to be on Appreciate It.
Who goes on the other one though?
Danny Mullins will be on the other one. He's second in line. Banbridge and Fildor aren't without chances either. No. So
neither is Saint-Ouen.
No, definitely not. He's a Grade 1 winner. So no, it's a very open, interesting race. I would be in line with Paul Townend runs, and I will be in line with Appreciate It, because I think they'll bowl out with Dysart Dynamo, and Banbridge will be sitting pretty prominent. I just think the ground might. Again, it's been pretty reliably watered. If it rides like it did in Christmas, I don't think it'll suit Banbridge that much either. So, and Fildor likes to be prominent. So I can see Fildor outrunning his odds again. He might fill the frame each way, but I do think that it might set up nicely for Appreciate It to win this.
I'm kind of leaning towards Appreciate It as well. I don't see. I'd be very surprised if he's not on Appreciate It Townend, to be honest. I just think he will win this as well. It's a tough one. It's just a tough one. It's going to be a great race. I think that's what we're looking for here. whether you've got all these bankers and big short price favourites, but this is what we want. We want to see the best taking on the best, and Mullins is certainly giving us that because he's putting all of it. This is a top race. This is one of the best races of the season, I think.
Yeah, it's quite an exciting one because there's just so many different kind of angles in it. But I mean, William Mullins has had to do that, and it's shaped up that he'd had to do that for a long, long way. So it's good to kind of see them all holding their ground and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll move into the Irish Gold Cup. Galloping Deschamps has been declared. He is 1-3 to win the Irish Gold Cup. His first run at 3 miles over fences. Paul Townend on board. Startler in behind. You've got the likes of Kenboy, Fury Roads in there, obviously. We just hope Galloping Deschamps wins this.
Yeah, this isn't a betting heat for sure.
No.
Given that there's just a 7 as well, so you can't kind of try and pick out who might be second or third. The market's so strong. Galloping Deschamps, he's £11 clear in all known ratings. Only doubt stamina. The 3 miles, he needs to go out and prove it. He's the great with Galloping Deschamps is that he's priced for the Cheltenham Gold Cup and this Gold Cup as if he's already been there and done it. That's not the case. In open company, it's simply not. And that's the John Durkin's working out pretty well. He just needs to do the same over 3 miles and keep it up. And Mullins has got perfect cover in Statler in that regard. If he's probably got all the boxes that Galloping Deschamps might not have in terms of stamina, efficiency, relaxing while jumping. But even though there are signs that Galloping Deschamps and the John Durkin's doing a lot better in that regard, so yeah, you'd expect him to win, and Statler's definitely the most likely to be second. Interested to see what race Fury Road runs. So there's an untapped talent there, but they do seem to be going down this 3 mile route with him, and you can see why he does shape a bit like a stair. We'll kind of see more about him, but and yeah, Kenboy will probably set the pace for him.
Yeah, Galloping Deschamps, I think, just wins here. Well, a couple of handicaps. We've got the handicap hurdle over 3 miles as well. You've got the Paddy Power handicap chase over 2 mile 1 furlong, and the very interesting for the bumper on Saturday. Patrick Mullins has chosen to ride my bumper selection fact to file.
It's a plus.
Yep.
I'm not seeing any of these yet, but yeah, I mean, the one I quite like was Chosen Witness. I'd be interested in her the most, but out of them all. But yeah, Factifying stamina is definitely not in short supply. Hope that Patrick Mullins would make plenty of use of him. But, it's an interesting call on the McManus horse as well in particular. So yeah, that's an open bumper. It's not a race that I've really looked at too much in too much detail.
What about the handicaps? Nothing in there on the Saturday?
I like the Charles Burns horse in the 410, Grosny.
Yeah.
That might be the 340 actually. The 340 3 mile handicap hurdle. The race maximum. I quite like Grosny there. 12 to 1. You usually kind of maps one out, and I think that is. And A Wave of the Sea goes for a 3-timer in the 410, and he's probably good enough to go close. But Final Orders of Gavin Cromwell is pretty interesting as well. So those are the two that would be looking at early doors in the 410.
Yep. Sunday we'll move into. Let's look at the 2 mile 5 furlong. We have Mighty Potter in there at 7-4, James de Berley 7-2, Gaia Duminil's in there at 11-2, Journey with Me 8-1. It's obviously Jerry Calum's declared to go to Sandown, which we'll touch on in a wee minute. Obviously, we don't know the full declarations, jockeys, etc. But Mighty Potter, where are you with Mighty Potter?
Well, I mean, he's doing nothing wrong. He's a very hardy horse, and it's going to be very difficult to beat. I prefer the ground and maybe the softer side for him, but he can make a mistake, and I think he's more vulnerable than people think here to James de Berley. I think he's interesting. I think he's a serious talent. I think he might be able to show really what he's all about here, and make a strong case for himself. He's potentially betwixt and between Turners and Brown Advisory as well.
Yeah.
Again, I think soft ground might be important to him, his French background, but I think those two are definitely off. Galdemir, we know what he's all about. Calum looks off to Sandown. And El Fabiola is entered here, but he's definitely going to go to the 2 mile, isn't he? So James Abelli will run here, so it's an interesting kind of little race. Mighty Potter, for what he's achieved, odds against looks a bit kind, but you would be mindful of the talent of James Abelli because we wouldn't be overly surprised if he turned them over.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards Journey with me. I was very encouraged by the run the last time again behind Impervious. If he goes here, it's maybe too quick a turnaround, obviously. But if he goes here and he's in form, he's certainly capable. It was the best he jumped. He's always capable of a mistake, as we know. But I just think at 8-1, he could be a good wee player here.
He'd rather been forgotten about. Yeah, I think his price is he's not going to run. 3 weeks of the back. But he's pinned down to be the 2.5 miler for the Bromhead, and I would rather see him not run there. I think it's just a general kind of preference thing, but I like it when Henry de Bromhead's horses are kind of mainly targeted at Cheltenham and skip it because I think he's very good in that regard. So yeah, I don't think he'd be leaving much behind. So yeah, it's kind of forgotten about in the tunnels a little bit, and particularly when he's definitely going to run there as well. He's not the worst for each way price there. There is just kind of that doubt about his kind of. He has dropped out a couple of times, a bit disappointingly in proper top end contests. I think that's why he's a little bit of a tempting price in that regard. So yeah, but he's definitely not one to write off, particularly if nothing else impresses you.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll move into the Dublin Chase. Blue Lord is 1-3 to win this for Willie Mullins. Again, he's not up against an awful lot. So Royals there. Gentleman to me, you've got Dunvegan, Fast or Slow. Where are we with Blue Lord? That is, if Blue Lord was to win this by 10, 15 lengths, he probably could. I mean, he's clear on them in ratings. Is he the champion chase favourite?
I think he might have 3 joint favourites after this. I think that's kind of way it's going. I don't think he'd confidently draw a conclusion out of it because it's not the greatest race, is it? I mean, if Gentleman to Be comes back to some sort of semblance of entry form here and runs well, then possibly. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of in the short term, he's one that you probably stick into your short price multiples and hope that you're still in with a chance come Sunday. Yeah, he should win this, isn't he? He looks like he's progressing. I think he is the progressive one of the main champion chase contenders. Whether that's enough to get past Eddleston, like reverse Arkle form, etc. from last season, and that might be open to a little bit of debate. And then arguing, could improve and be significantly better. So yeah, definitely one to watch. But I think he'll probably be joint favourite coming into play rather than outright favourite.
Yeah, he should win. Should just win. I don't think he has to beat an awful lot. Another really interesting race is the Irish Champion Hurdle. As it stands, we are likely to see State Man versus Honeysuckle versus Vauban. This could be a top race.
Yeah, this is interesting. You've kind of got the young Mullins pretenders coming against the champion who arguably blotted their copybook in losing their unbeaten record, but Teahupoo's doing all right for that form now, and it was a genuine kind of slog in the stairs contest. And if you look at that race coming around the bend, you'd have been absolutely perfectly pleased with Honeysuckle, even though she still had her kick away. And she just get tied up and was just vulnerable to 2 stairs. So I still insist that the right 2 horses in the day were the ones that beat her, the only ones that should beat her. That's what happened. So I think she could win this.
I think she could. I think there'd be a roar.
I
think that would be the story of the weekend if she won.
Well, last season her Irish Champion Hurdle win was a lot better than her Champion Hurdle run. I think some of her best. I think 2 of the 3 of her best performances in her career have been in this race.
The one 2 years ago was sensational. That solidified a lot. The one 2 years ago.
If it turns into a bit of a slog, State Man could turn her over, but she's getting that £7. She still has that finishing kick. It's back to 2 miles, which I think is now probably her optimum trip. Vauban again is this kind of flying ointment figure of he had a horrible prep coming in, but the money that day in behind State Man was pretty strong. I think they expected him to run fairly well. I don't think is there going to be that much significant improvement coming from him off the back of that run? Well, if the market vibes for him were weak, then you would probably say yes, and it'd be interesting here. I'm not that sure myself. I think this could just be Honeysuckle's day.
State Man's been excellent so far. Hasn't put a foot wrong, but I'm siding with Honeysuckle. I just want Honeysuckle to win. Again, the more you look at it, that Hatton's Grace run was actually pretty okay. Well, obviously, because she's been beaten, I think a lot of people have written her off. Like, I still think she won't beat Constitution Hill. I don't think anything in here is going to beat Constitution Hill. But this is probably her day to win. This would be her 4th Irish Champion hurdle. It would be some story if she did that. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, I don't think there would be a bigger ovation than her winning this year. And again, I think you've just got 3 evenly matched horses. 2 are very progressive. One's the old, as you say, the champion, and this will be her last year, I would imagine, is in training. I want her to. If you told me pick one winner for the weekend, it'd be Honeysuckle.
I mean, on marks, if you factor in the £7 alliance, Honeysuckle's 5 clear of State Man and 7 clear, 12 clear of Vauban.
12 clear of Vauban, yeah.
Tactically as well, State Man, he might have to make all here. There's zero kind of pace in this.
Yeah.
I think that will in itself will probably suit Honeysuckle, because you can just see him. I'll just track State Man and then use that, maybe that bit of turn of foot if he doesn't go quick enough to and maybe wait a little bit longer rather than that kind of kick between 2 out and 1 out. Just maybe utilise it 1 out to the line, and I can see her winning this in a style of her toppling Benny to do through speed up the running. And just beating State Man for just that little bit of toe, because I think State Man, his future will lie over fences, and I think he's kind of a stamina lane 2-miler in the way he can operate things. A bit like Honeysuckle is, but I think Honeysuckle, that £7 that she gets, she just might have that extra gear that State Man might not have, and at the prices as well. I think 15-8 Honeysuckles is not bad against 5-4 State Man. So and as you say, the emotional side of it, I mean, it's not a race that you'd be looking to kind of hugely invest too much money in, but I think a lot of hearts will be invested in it anyway, and we'll see how it goes. And wouldn't rule out Vauban either. And Pied Piper, if he comes back to a semblance of form, will just sitting in behind, and try and swoop late like kind of Abacadabra's failed to do several times in that race beforehand. So tactically, I think it's shaping up in Honeysuckle's favour, and the market's kind of beginning to speak in her favour a little bit more, because that defeat is certainly not as bad as it looked.
No. Let's move into the Tattersalls Novice Hurdle. Facile Vega is kind of very short to win this. Obviously, High Definition looks to be the main rival. Where are we here? Does Facile Vega, does he just win, or is High Definition? His form has been boosted, been franked at every angle the past few weeks. Does he have a danger?
High Definition is not really a horse that particularly interests me for anything at the moment. I think he's still got a bit to prove. Facile Vega's turning into very appreciated vibes with this horse in terms of everything, dodging it. I think he's going to step up here as well. I think he's going to be better than he's shown in the last 2. The engine at the end. He needs to jump a bit slicker, but he's going to be in a semblance of a proper race here, so that should suit him. In the pocket interests me if he goes. Obviously, Dark Raven for me. LAT top, can he get a bit closer? I doubt it. I think that's kind of probably his level, so he's probably 4 lengths inferior. And as you say, maybe High Definition will improve. I think his hurdling technique may get caught out here a little bit, but his flat back class is undoubted. Even though I think a decent flat horse is flat, and their impact over jumps is a little bit overstated when in the game, and it's more influential when they become sires. But I think Dart Raven in the pocket might be the ones that chase Facile Vega home in this. And the Irish Point as well, for a horse that's reliably second in these kind of things, 10s each way is that enough? But it's doubtful that 8's going to hold their kind of own in this potentially. So you're kind of hoping that you're going to get a flat 8 just to have some each way interest from a betting perspective. But I'd suspect Facile Vega will win. How good it'll look, who knows? But I do think he'll probably put in his best performance yet.
Yeah. Let's get into the handicaps. I've got a really strong fancy in the first one. I think Liberty Dance off 129 is banking material in that mare's handicap, although I think she is a very big chance in that race. Liberty Dance for me. Gaelic Warriors obviously very interesting if he decides to line up in the 410. Indigo Breeze is obviously favourite at 7-2 for the Bulmers handicap hurdle. He will probably need to do quite well to maybe get into a Kim Muir. 133 he's been given. Panda Boy I think has been lined up towards the Irish National. You've got Real Steel. My strongest play of the week is Liberty Dance in the mare's handicap hurdle. What is your big selections for the Saturday and Sunday?
I've absolutely none big selections anyway. I've just got a radar. I'm quite intrigued by Ryoga Choice in the opener. Now,
okay,
we've got Liberty Dance. Gordon Elliott always has one primed here, and it's definitely going to be this. But 3-1 the handicap. Can leave it alone. But Ryoga Choice was very well fancied in the same race at Liberty Dance. The one in the Magical Zoe actually won.
Yeah.
And she's off a very lightweight, 1-2-1 or something. That's 12-1. I think would be pretty reasonable there. But again, you have to kind of wait and see with these things. I mean, she went off notably shorter than Magical Zoe that day, and I think that's pretty good form. So anything for that Down Royal race that runs there is interesting, in my opinion. The 240 Indigo Breeze, to justify Kim Muir, you wouldn't really need to do much here. Being the Irish handicapper gives you 5, you go up to 138 anyway. So that is kind of an interesting race. But if Vanelli went here, if he can start jumping again. But there's one Elite horse that I quite like is Mars Harper.
Okay.
In this, it's been 20-1, but it's been shaping in behind third and fourth in various graded races without kind of doing much. Last race at Naas, it actually finally went to kind of the beginner's chase. It's worked out okay. It was Johnny Remy's kind of better performance and Flame Bearer kind of bombed out. Mars Harper was well in touch in that race, still pecking out quite badly in the fourth, both last, and we just kind of dropped out. So there might be some mileage in that kind of mark, bit exposed, but is a type that can kind of strike. So him in the 240 would be of interest, and I think everyone's waiting to see what Gaelic Warrior does in the 410. If he goes, seems to be the plan. Go here, try and win it, then go into graded races. Certainly reveal more. Probably prefer it to Kerala over him anyway. But I'm happy to wait and see if Gaelic Warrior's in it or not before looking at that.
Yeah, I like Fancy Girl as well in the mare's flat race as well. I just think 11-8. She's short enough, but she should just win. She was very impressive last time out. And we do have some action in the UK. I know it's very Irish based this weekend, but we do have the big race at Sandown, which is the Silly Isles Novices Chase, and it is going to be a run for Jerry Calum. Again, 2-1. Jordan Gainford takes the ride. Monmoral's in there. Balco Coastal, Thunder Rock. Nice race. Will it be soft enough for Jerry Calum?
That's a big question, isn't it? Gordon Elliott is not for 7 in lifetime at Sandown as well. This is interesting placing.
Do you think this is an owner decision more than a trainer decision?
think it's just a bit of placement. Just keep him away from the kind of. I think they're pretty sure that the 2 mile 5 at Leopardstown. They might not get the rain here, where the emphasis on stamina and going right-handed. Sandown's right-handed. He does go right-handed all the time now. I don't think it's significantly detrimental to his jumping, but you would be kind of mindful of that he is exclusively keeps racing right-handed. Whether that's by accident or by design, I'm not too sure. His jumping suggests by accident, but the longer it goes on, it might be of design, and that'll be a bit of an unknown at Cheltenham. His soft ground, an unknown. Let's see how he travels over. Sandown, not an obvious port of call for Elliott, as his record suggests. I just think they've found a Grade 1 here that they think's probably quite weak and that we can win.
Yeah.
And Sandown has looked like a bit of a kind of. Well, even with good to soft, it's looked pretty attritional, hasn't it? To be honest, so and it usually turns out an attritional contest. The one Sport and John won, for instance, when he came from miles back and was basically the only one kind of staying on and won it. So, yeah, and the opposition doesn't look particularly great. The real Whacker's form in Monmoral will get tested a little bit. So they'll have a line here. I think this is a kind of a trial scene. Let's see if he likes this, and then if he does and gets away with it Sandown, then that'll justify us going to Cheltenham and getting away with it there. So I think that's kind of the general plan, and I think he's good enough to win this. I think 2-1's okay. I think he's comfortably the best horse in this race. I would think Balco Coastal could be dangerous because I think he's kind of the one with untapped graded potential. I think Jerry Calum, Limerick's 2 mile 3 and a bit. This is a bit further, and it's quite stiff getting home. So whether it's bottomless enough for him, I'll have to wait and see. But the way Sandown's been all season suggested it should be, even if it's good to soft. So I think we'll get away with it. I think right-handed, the stiff finish is obviously going to play to his strengths massively. He jumps very well. It's a very stiff jumping test, so it's a very interesting placement. But I think it's a decent enough move. I think if you can get 2s,
yeah,
it's just about fair enough.
Yeah, I think 2 is a good price if it's soft enough. You're off to Musselburgh as well.
Yes, I'm aiming to go along Sunday. Hopefully chasing fire runs there than he does at Sandown, but I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to run at Sandown, so instead of there in the Supreme Trial. But no, it's always a really good meeting. You've got obviously at Leopardstown in between the big screens. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to get along for the Sunday, the Triumph Trials and the Supreme Trials, and all those races are on.
Brilliant. We won't have an anti-post pick this week. We're going to have 2 next week, and we'll obviously be back next week with a Dublin Racing Festival review. We'll hear about all the action at Musselburgh and things like that as well. Calum, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a busy show this week, so I really appreciate you.
Yeah, big busy periods this week and next week, and then it really is kind of full steam ahead to Cheltenham.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on, Calum.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Cheers.